good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, or good night. This is I'm Shy and Chat. Victoria and Joe. So I'm Joe, and Victoria is in her blue hoodie. I don't know if you can see us both, hopefully. So today is the second podcast that we've done, or vlog that we've done, or that we're going to do, and it's going to talk about expectations. So would you like to, what do you think, Vic?
Yeah, I last week I'm Victoria from Tree Living Yoga, and last week we had a philosophy session in yoga on one of the yamas, which talks about non-possessiveness and non-greediness, and in it came up a lot of things about expectations and how we can be like, it's almost like one of those pathways to happiness to not expect things. And there was a lady that I was listening to, and she was saying, "Oh, if your husband comes in and says to you, 'Oh, you're the most beautiful woman in the world' on one day, then in a way it's almost he's crushing you because he's given you that bar, that level that then every day you're expecting him to tell you how amazing you look. So you wait with this expectation, and
Mhm.
maybe he only does it once every 10 years."
Yeah, do you know when you go for if you've ever been for a massage or a therapy, the person who's doing the therapy will never comment on your skin or your physicality, and I think it's a really clever technique in terms of you realise that they we all judge, don't we?
We
But they
do
don't.
you know, just saying that, they don't, unless they're maybe of a well, I went to a place in Middlesbrough, and it was a Thai massage place in Middlesbrough, and they did comment on my friend's bum and said what a good bum she had whilst they were massaging her bum.
I wonder if it's the same thing, that she'll feel disappointed if the next time they don't comment on her bottom.
Yeah.
But I think I was having to think about it before we chatted about expectations, and when we have low expectations. So, for example, we got a dog, and I had incredibly low expectations. I knew every negative thing that would happen about the dog, and I just hadn't really factored into the fact that I was going to love her. Um,
Aw.
and it was a wonderful thing. Whereas some people go in thinking this dog's going to be everything, and it's going to do this and that and the other, and then the reality will be perhaps a bit more disappointing, or it's so multi-layered about who we are as people. And I found this amazing quote from Brené Brown. I'm going to put my glasses on.
Mm-mm.
I can see. So Brené Brown, who is, as we know, is like, this kind of God, Oprah Brené, in a sense.
There's she's got a lot of TED Talks and others. If you don't know who Brené Brown is, when we post to YouTube, we'll stick some links underneath it so you can find her.
That's the best thing ever. But she says expectations are resentments waiting to happen.
Exactly, yeah. So for your dog, I bet you are like just overwhelmed with love, and it's such a good thing and such a surprise.
Well, what she was saying was basically, and she and Oprah were having this little mini chat, and they were saying that as your expectations rise, self worth descends. So it's this balance of which is terrible. And she was also saying that it's also a way of measuring kind of shame under construction. That's another way she talked about it.
Wow, that's interesting because it is sort of bringing you back to being present, isn't it? Because you're almost setting yourself up for not like for failure, but maybe if you're like, especially if your expectations are of other people or
Yeah,
situations that you can't control and you don't have influence of, but you're expecting someone to compliment you, expecting somebody to notice that you've had your hair done, or
yeah, exactly. The kind of thing of I'm going to get into shape so that when I next see somebody, they're going to be amazed. and you're putting your, I mean, this is sort of a disaster, isn't it? I mean, what did she say? This is resentment waiting to happen, because the chances are that you might not lose what you'd hoped that you were going to lose, therefore you're feeling a bit shamed, and even if you do lose it, they might not even notice or care, because
Yes,
that's
I've been there so many times, but it's really difficult to click your head into, if you do lose weight or do something and then you see someone, and it's really difficult to not hold on to that, isn't it? Because it's almost like it's happening on such a subconscious level, that you've done that and you think, oh yeah, I feel like really good, and then you've seen a few people and nobody has said anything to you whatsoever, and there's just this little
but it's
chatter
the
going
same
on in your head.
with your, with your yoga sessions. The way that you set, the way that you create a space which is safe is is immensely important. And one of the lovely things about the sessions I've been to your yoga is the periods of time where you might have your eyes closed. So, for example, if we're feeling embarrassed, that's a barrier, isn't it? I don't want to do this thing because I'm going to feel embarrassed. But if you're attending a session where you can basically wear anything, that everyone else has got their eyes closed, so nobody's going to be watching you. All of these things reduce. They reduce that sort of self-criticism and the anticipated criticism and judgment that we expect from other people.
Do you have an expectation of the class? Do you go and think, oh, when I finish this, I'm going to feel amazing, I'm going to feel really relaxed or stretched, or I'm going to be de-stressed, and then could you be disappointed if say you went to a class thinking, oh, I'm really looking forward to being nice and chilled, and it's not one of those sessions, and suddenly it's a little bit more dynamic than you fancied?
Actually, no. I think that the only time I can remember that I really would work was one of the very first classes that I went to, and I didn't understand. I'd never heard of Ujjayi breathing. I didn't know what it was. And when everybody there was somebody next to me, I was thinking, oh my God, are they going to make that noise the whole way? It's meant to be peace, love, and flowers. I was thinking, this guy's going to have a heart attack. Because I think it was sort of as a novice. And as you know, I've only done yoga for a couple of years, and it's sort of yeah. So I think we don't know what we don't know, do we?
No.
Somebody's got asthma or just snoring. We're back to snoring. But I was thinking again, so in terms of our expectations can maybe it's all wrapped in with is it good or is it bad? So so having an expectation of ourselves might be a driver, might be help us to achieve, to set an expectation. But it's also a negative thing, because then we're putting pressure on ourselves, and it's just so. I mean, I suppose you could look at it both ways. There'll be somebody who thinks actually we need to have expect high standards and good things of ourselves and hold ourselves to account.
Do you think though, like using the word like goals or dreams or hopes, like a different word would have a different sensation or feeling with it?
Possibly, Han. I think that maybe, I think a vision or an aim or a dream is I think they get wrapped up and mixed up as being the same things as an expectation, but they aren't. When you tease it apart, one of them is an anticipation. This is going to happen, while the other is a desire or I don't know. How would you describe it? I think.
I think that if I could let go of all expectations and only have dreams and manifestations and ambitions instead, because I do try, but I realise with my, actually maybe not, because I'm living at my mum's at the moment, I don't think I do expect her to go for a walk or eat healthily anymore. but I continue to keep badgering her about it. And then every day I think, oh, Mum, have you gone for a walk? She's like, no. But I've let go of that expectation actually as I say that, because I know she's not going to do it.
Yeah, but this is it's about control as well, isn't it? About with people that we can't control. You know, years and years ago, I worked in cardiac rehabilitation, and and then as a result of that, I did some teaching about secondary prevention. So people who've had cardiac events and or who have long-term conditions, and how to help prevent them. It's sort of teaching people how to support their patients to not have another event.
Mm.
And one of the students was she was very funny, but she basically was doing a project on obesity. she said she'd stood her mum in front of a mirror in her bra and pants and said, "Mum, when you're looking at the mirror there, what are you seeing?" And she said, I think I look great. The mum was delighted. She said, "Well, you know, I don't think we're seeing the same thing, Mum." And she said, "Well, we need a bit of fat. It's nature's filler." She did. Pulling her hair out, thinking this is diabetes and, you know, heart disease, and her mum was like, "That I think I look marvelous," and you know, it's
Oh, good for you. Have to feel like good for her mum, though, really, don't you? And
exactly. So she's not criticizing herself. She's not, you know, she's sort of dropping. Um, you know, I mean, one of the things is actually is being aware of when our expectations are high. So sometimes that's quite easy if we're going for a meal, or we're going on a holiday, or we're doing something specific. We might know that we're expecting it to be something, particularly if we're paying for it.
mm,
And it's almost like it's that actually noticing those expectations might be quite helpful in terms of just being mindful that, you know, it's almost like it places conditions on things, doesn't it? It makes us, I'm only going to enjoy this if.
yes,
Um,
it does, and then it allows you to sort of be disappointed. Whereas if you have no expectations, almost, but the word saying "I've got no expectations" makes it sound, it could be a little bit negative as well, like not ambitious, or they don't have any standards for themselves. But I think it opens you up to loads of joy, because if you
mm,
don't expect anything when you wake up, and you're like, my mum actually would say that every day she wakes up and she can get up and move and have coffee and go in the garden, it's a pleasure. So it's like every day she's got this surprise, I'm still here and I can still walk around, and it's lovely to be able to be really present and not expect, oh, today I'm going to get up and run a marathon, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to see that person and earn lots of money and da 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 da.
yeah. Do you think that expectations then are, you know, thinking about your sort of teacher training for your yogis, you know, is it something that crops up, this sort of, you know, do you feel a pressure because they're expecting things of you, for example?
I feel that I'm expecting things of me, and I'm expecting them to expect things of me. It's becoming less each time. And like this one that we just had, like the whole COVID lockdown thing was such a lesson, because all of a sudden everything was off the table. You know, there was no expectation of how people were going to interact or anything. Everything was new, and it was like almost experiencing a new day, a new world every single moment, with no benchmark whatsoever, because you'd never done it before. And consequently, it seemed to be the best. Like it was like the best. I would say the best is like, but it was the most. The group of people that just graduated seemed to develop so much intuition and so much presence in where they were, because they were just taking everything as it was in that moment without any expectations.
Well, without expectations and without judgment, and maybe it comes down to feeling enough as well, and feeling worthy. Because if you was it Bob Geldof was on the telly the other day, there was the thing about Live Aid, and he said, "We've never done this before, so I think we're about to basically bugger up in front of a bazillion people."
Mm.
um, but to have the confidence to say, this might be a disaster, but we're going to do it anyway, is, can you imagine if we transferred that to, people who don't swim because they feel that they're embarrassed about their body shape, or people who maybe would love to do something, some kind of activity, and they stop themselves, they create barriers that are,
and they're expecting somebody to judge them. They're expecting someone to look at them and say something negative. Do you know, when I went on holiday with my mum last year, and she, oh my god, this podcast sounds like I'm like always with my mum, doesn't it? But like last year we went, last year my mum is a little bit overweight and not too steady on her feet, and we went to San Francisco, and I expected that she'd be able to walk around, but then when we used lots of public transport, I also expected people to be short of patience, in like speeding somebody up. But we were just met with so many kind and helpful and patient people. It was just lovely. It was really overwhelmingly, and I suppose I had negative expectations of how people would react to us, and probably like my mum might have done as well. So it was lovely.
So what are your top tips then? What are your sort of take, in terms of, for people who maybe do feel regularly that their expectations aren't met, or that they feel disappointed or angry about things because they have maybe high standards? What would you recommend for those people?
I think it's worth having a little reflection, a moment, and trying to drill down sort of like the root of that. Why did you expect that of somebody, and are you putting that on them, or is it your own expectations? Do you know what I mean? So you're not disappointed, and then seeing how you could be like, just let go of it, not be attached to it, practicing that art of non-attachment, like non-attachment to how people react, non-attachment to how the situation would be, so that you can really be just now and in this moment.
Yeah, it's good advice. Possibly, and it's a work in progress as well. So people might
Totally
manage it in some situations and not in others. But I think it kind of as well being stating your expectations. So I've got my one of my sisters absolutely loves a coffee, but she loves it in a very specific way, and we've had more awful situations in because it's never quite right, because it's what she wants is really specific. So I kept thinking that you've got two choices. You either choose a different thing, or you explain to somebody, please will you do it exactly like this? So you actually use your words, and so if it's something really important, to actually be authentic and to say to that person, I need this. So that lady who, to the husband, that's so lovely. I love it when you compliment me, but actually I've noticed you haven't complimented me. Is there something that actually it's the dialogue and the communication, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But on like I'm quite particular about coffee, and drinks and stuff, and I think I've changed my expectation in a coffee shop, and if I doubt that it's going to be something that I'm going to really enjoy, I just go for hot water. And if I'm at home, I just make it myself, because then it's easy and it saves all of that like angstiness that happens around that. And like somebody, some people have like tea, and they'll just, you ask them how they like it, and they just say as long as it's wet.
Yeah. On the others, on a spectrum, that's one person. With tea, I like it so specific that there are maybe 0.011 of the population who could actually provide me with a cup of tea. So I tend to, which is why I drink coffee, because I don't care really how coffee comes. But I'm now getting fussy with that as well. So I mean, it's just food for thought. Lovely. Well, it's been a very nice chat, seeing you with the sun shining on you.
Oh yeah, it looks like looks like it's more sunny than it actually is here, I think. but hopefully today it's going to be a gorgeous day. Oh no, that's an expectation, isn't it? I'm expecting today to be lovely and sunny.
Well, no, it's just a hope, isn't it?
It's a
I
hope.
think that's the thing, isn't it? It'll be lovely, but it's not going to spoil your day if it's not.
No. Aw, thanks,
So,
Joe.
till next time.
Yeah, lovely to see you. Enjoy your day.
And you, my darling, and you.